Okay, today's video, we're going to talk about Google Ads Editor, the program, the tool that's, if you don't know what it is already, the tool that you can use to bulk, edit, upload, delete, whatever you would normally do through your Google Ads account, your Google Ads PPC advertising account. So you can make, as the idea kind of goes, quicker, easier, better, changes, mostly quicker and easier changes to your Google Ads account that you wouldn't have. Facebook has an equivalent of that as well, so that you can, without having to go into the actual interface that Google provides, but for most people that just the primary native one, we'll call it, you can actually make changes to a desktop software you download, and then pretty much then do all the changes you want, and then once you've got all the changes you want, you upload them, and then it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 1,000 changes, you can upload them all at once with the push of a button once it's ready. So it's a great tool to do, more than anything, big changes, and big in the terms of numerical amount, great number of changes at once. But there's some other main reasons why I use Google Ads Editor, and so if you wanted a quick lowdown as to whether or not you should be worrying about it or not, or maybe if you do use it now, what else you should be using it for. So I've done, Google Ads had a Google Adwords Editor going back about 10 years now, and I've used it for about that long. It was a great thing then, it's a great thing now. I use it for different things now that I did before, but there's definitely a lot of things that I would die or cannot live without in terms of what Google Ads Editor provides. With the name change from Google AdWords to Google Ads, the ad editor changed from Google AdWords Editor to Google Ads Editor. But it's pretty much working the same way, and fundamentally it's the same way as it always ever was when it first came out. Google Ads itself has changed, which is the reason why the way you use the tool, or like what it's, I pretty much assume that you and most people should use it for, and I do myself use it for, has changed because Google Ads have changed. Not that the AdWords Editor so much is broken or gotten less efficient. I do use it less, but again, there's some key things that I absolutely do use it for, and I'll tell you about what all those things are. So anyway, with all that said, I will give you the lowdown about what I use it for, how you can benefit directly from it starting immediately after this video. It's free to use. You can download it anytime. Works for Mac, works for desktop. And pretty much everybody should be using it that does Google Ads, as long as you are dead set on doing Google Ads to crush your competition. And if you want to crush your competition, it comes down to doing generally more and knowing more. Both. You can't just know more, which you can know exactly what other people don't know by watching the videos on my channel, because I've got 15 years of PPC experience packed into a channel, and so it's free information. And then it's a matter of going ahead and doing it, which even if somebody else, your competitors do know what to do and they did see my videos, mostly nobody wants to, they'll think it's insane to go ahead and spend the energy and effort doing it. So you're the one, if you're the one that actually goes and do these things, you're going to be the one that basically are in that top 20% that makes most of the 80% of the money in your space, and that's just how it is. PPC is a war. Only about 20% make most of the money, or any money at all. There's a bunch of people not making any money with Google Ads, respectively, because they don't know it, they don't have tracking set up, or they're just mediocre campaigns. Google have priced the ads to where only the people doing the best job can really get a good return, and they set it up that way on purpose so that people constantly strive to do better in terms of serving their users, so they have better, more targeted ads, better landing pages, so on and so forth. So the system it's baked right into the cake. A lot of the stuff that gets you to that top 20% takes time, and Google Ads Editor makes doing that necessary work to crush your competition and be in the top 20% much easier and less prone to making mistakes, because The more changes you make, obviously, and the more details you add to your campaigns, the more likely it is to make a mistake along the way as well, which is another reason why people don't want to do it. They don't want a lot to manage, so they don't want a lot to do. They also don't want a lot to manage, and they also don't want potentially there to be mistakes. And it's not that hard to not make a mistake. Any good product or service or anything out there worth doing didn't get there, wasn't simple. And this is no different. There's easy ways to manage it. Google Ads being the one tool that probably out of any other tool that I have for Google Ads helps me do the stuff I'm talking about here to win, and regardless of what market I'm going to be going into, without having to break a sweat too much. So anyway, Google Ads interface has a lot of the bulk modified tools that people use to edit Google Ads. And for what Google Ads Editor does, formerly known as Google Ads Editor, Adwords, formerly known as Google Adwords Editor, like I mentioned, the rebrand. Now it's generally for, there's some other things that I use it for today that I didn't use it before, whereas I used it for more things before. Because Google Ads, the native interface where you could log in and make your changes like mostly everybody else does, they added more functionality to Google Ads as soon as you log in without using this Google Ads Editor that makes a lot of the things I used Google Ads Editor for, I simply don't need to use Google Ads Editor for anymore. Namely, if you want to go ahead and copy and paste a campaign or copy paste an ad, you could simply click on the ad, and then in the submenu there you can click on copy and then go ahead and paste. So you could copy and paste lots of campaigns, lots of ads, lots of ad groups, so on and so forth, to a certain degree, okay? You can't copy bids very easily. You can bulk apply different bid adjustments by clicking and selecting everything in a certain submenu that you've drilled down to in your Google Ads account. But copying, 15 different bids that are all similar and needs to be somewhere else, that's to the level where Google Ads Editor can be of some use to you. Because in Google Ads Editor, there's really no limit as to what you want to copy and paste. Let's just say that it'll let you drill down in any way that you want. So that's the main thing why people use it in general. Google Ads never made it quite so easy when they first started out to copy and paste campaigns and so forth quite as easily and cleanly. So I would use it to copy, excuse me, I use it to copy stuff a lot more. I used to use it to copy more stuff than I did. So anyway, moving beyond that, now that Google Ads interface itself has been updated, what do I use it more anymore that you could use it for today? There's just a short list of 4 things that I use it for today on pretty much all of our client accounts. Let's just say 99% of the time, in which you could take some benefit of knowing this knowledge of what I use it for to help you get better results on your campaigns. The first of which is QA checks. So quality assurance checks. When you have the more campaigns you have, like I talked about before, the more chance that you have of screwing something up, because there's a lot of fine details. If you follow my videos that give you basically the tutorials on how to win at PPC every single time, because you're adding a little bit more sophistication than what most people are willing to do. There's a lot of technical, settings changes that you need on these campaigns and strategies, which just the physical act of entering them in one by one, you can make a typo basically. And so in Google Ads native interface, when you log in, they don't make it real easy to at a high level check certain things. And if you do, you have to click page, next to get, because you can only show like 100 things on a page at any time. I believe it's 100, that changes depending on what interface you're talking about, but let's just say up to 100. Whereas a lot of times I'll have thousands of keywords. Why? Because each campaign has the same 300 keywords over and over again, in which we have a separate campaign for each location so that the ad each time can have the user's location in it, because that'll double or triple the response, as I mentioned on my other videos before. So whereas I know for sure what gets results, and therefore once I know it works for one account, I'm doing it for all others. I don't want to make a mistake when so before I go live with any campaign, I can quickly scroll down and look at 5,000 keywords and see the settings are all the same on all of them before I push live and publish, which pushes all the campaigns I made out at once. So it just makes it easy at a high level to check all of your work, whereas Google Ads is okay for doing that as long as you don't have a lot of campaigns. But when everybody else has a lot of just a few campaigns and they're trying to ram everybody into the same user experience, the same ad, the same landing page, and you go ahead and you have new ads and new landing pages for different people based upon what they're looking for, which is what they inherently want, you get more results. Yes, you can make a mistake more easier than them, and you're going to have to add this layer of sophistication to your strategy, which is using Google Ads to check your work. There's no reason to make a mistake using Google Ads. Once in a great while I'll make a typo, but with Google Ads Editor, very, very easy to check your work. So that's the first thing. I guess that's probably the main thing I use it for, the most commonly anyway. 2, you can do offline creation of very similar campaigns while saving time creating those campaigns. So respectively, I talked about how you can copy and paste campaigns and keywords and so on and so forth inside the Google Ads native interface without using Google Ads Editor. However, in Google Ads Editor, it's even easier to copy and paste. You could just click, 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 copy, paste. Because the changes aren't going live all at once, you don't have to wait for the Google Ads interface, which is inherently really slow a lot of times, even if you're on a fast internet connection or not, or have a PC with tons of memory, which generally anymore, Google Ads, you almost have to have 64 gigabytes of memory just to be able to use it efficiently. Through Google Ads Editor, you're offline, so you copy and paste, and you're making a lot of campaigns. There is no upload. Therefore, there's zero delay in making your campaigns. You're just making them offline, and so every click, you don't have to wait every single click you make. And so I can copy and paste. I can see at a high level what I did easier because that's inherently how it's set up for, to be able to look at a lot of campaigns at once, whereas in Google Ads, by default, it's not set up to look at a lot of ads or a lot of campaigns at once. So offline, I'll build all my campaigns in the Google Ads so that I don't have to wait, basically, okay? And I'll copy, because I'll usually use the same site links, at least right away when I first build campaigns. For one campaign for all, I can quickly copy those over. I can quickly copy over, and when I say you can't copy bids very easily in Google Ads, respectively, I'll try to use, when I'm rebuilding campaigns, to make a better version to have what replaces in the account before for a client. I'll look at the past data to see what the bid should be for each keyword, time of the day of the week, what are called bid adjustments. And I can easily copy all those bid adjustments and copy them over to another campaign in which I'll build a root campaign that replaces the old one that has, it's better structure, one ad per ad group, so that you can have one ad for every keyword. And with that, I'll use the bid adjustments on each level, time of the day of the week, state, based upon what's gotten the most results before, and bid more or less based upon what worked in the past, so I get right away better results using as much data from the old campaign as I can, which you should do. But when you create that secondary campaign, I'll also often want to break things down. If I'm talking about a local business, instead of just targeting Denver as a whole, have Denver, Colorado Springs. Why? Because if you're in Colorado Springs and you see an ad that says Denver/Colorado Springs, it won't work as good as if you just see Colorado Springs right there in the ad. So to get that little hack, I'll make a root campaign for Denver, and then I'll make one for Colorado Springs, so the ad can always say Colorado Springs. And then I can copy the bids that I manually put in for the first campaign for Denver and then use the same bids for Colorado Springs without having to manually put them in again. Hopefully that makes sense. So whatever that you can't necessarily easily copy and paste for Google Ads, through Google Ads Editor, you can copy and paste settings from anything to basically to anything. There's really no limit to what you can't copy and paste there. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I'll create all my campaigns there, and then going into number 3, you can bulk upload of these same campaigns so they can all be published at once. So respectively, I'll create all my campaigns because it's easier to build them offline. There's no waiting for the interface. I can easily copy and paste and see at a high level easier what I've got going on. I can check at a high level, make sure that we didn't make any mistakes, which, by the way, we're copying and pasting mostly all the time once we've gotten past the initial campaign that we're making, let's say, which reduces the chance of a typo. And then at the very end, I've checked them all. By the time I click publish, I know for a fact it's set up the right way and I didn't make any mistakes. And then I'll click publish and it'll take 5 minutes to upload, but I can go get a coffee while I'm doing that. So I can upload all the campaigns at once, respectively. I know this is probably not your obvious situation or problem, but if a client says, hey, why did you do one campaign for this versus this? I like to just, if I'm working on a strategy to build a set of campaigns that are going to replace the old ones, but I'm going to have one campaign for each city, like I talked about before, respectively, I want to just upload all the campaigns related to that strategy in one shot. Because also, when we go into it, 2 months later, I want to come back to the client, set a reminder saying, hey, we're 2 months in. The new campaign's got this, the old campaign's got this, this is where we're at. Versus if you're uploading one at a time, right, your data will get a little bit more muddy. You can't see the entire strategy having went live at the same time. Not a big issue, but just another thing to kind of be cognizant of. And so you can do a lot of time spent, we'll spend a couple hundred hours building out a bunch of campaigns for overall strategy we're using. Then we'll push them all live in 5 minutes like I talked about, and then boom, they'll all be there. So inherently, though, to the client, it looks like there's not a lot of work going on for like 2 months, and then all of a sudden there's hundreds of hours of work that went live all at once. But less likely to have made a mistake that way, and we know that basically we're going to be able to analyze the numbers easier later on because the entire strategy went live at once, like I said. So anyway, there's that. And then the fourth thing, if you're going to do, so it says split second uploads for site redesigns. So I've talked about this, there's a video I made recently about how to do, every 3 years or so, you got to, you don't have to, but obviously most people think they have to or do. They update their site design or they redo their site, and then their campaigns, you've got to carefully manage the campaigns so that the new site coincides with the campaigns well, and you have as little volatility and downside and downwards minimization of the negative effect of switching over to a new site as possible with the PPC management you're doing. And that's very easy to get screwed up. So if you're going to do this, I recommend watching my other video specifically dedicated to that. One of the things I mentioned on that video, though, was the fact that often there's like a 5-step process where you can basically guarantee you won't have a problem. Whereas if you don't do that, I've seen about half the time people have way more downtime on their PPC in terms of poor results when the ads do go live, time when they're not running, so that you're losing money that way. That what I mentioned is you got to get all the data in advance from the web design firm, and then you build out a Google Ads editor file, which you download the current settings of the whole account. Then you make your changes based upon what the site is going to look like on the staging server, and then basically you can set it up so that at 2 o'clock in the morning on October 31st, the web development firm is going to push the site live, and in which I can have at exactly 2 a.m. my Google Ads editor file with all the new settings that's supposed to perfectly match how the new site is set up, also published at the same exact time. So there's zero time in which the ads are going to any broken pages or any pages where they're not supposed to go. And respectively, it takes weeks to figure out, because every single ad, especially if you do the campaigns the way that I do them, every single ad you have to make a decision. Should it go to the same page it is? Should it go to a different page because the design is different, so therefore it might not convert the same way, even though the person is saying this page is the same. Maybe that page is crappy now. So ad by ad, you got to evaluate, and you got hundreds, if not thousands of ads sometimes when you built up an account over years. And I want to do all that research without rushing, because that's where you make mistakes, and that's what most people are going to do. Make the file and then and get on the same page when the site's going live, so that the site ad editor file can upload all the new settings all at once at the exact same time the site's getting updated. Okay, so respectively, if I could have a number 5 here along with that, what I'm also going to do just for the client's benefit, we can have, because usually a site when I don't want to say usually, probably 20-30% of the time somebody does a site overhaul. And the bigger the site, the more likely it happens. It's not done right. There's glitches in it, and then ultimately the site has to be rolled back. Okay, so you have to roll the site back. Now the campaign has to go back. Now, anytime you go to where you're going to point the ads to a new place, you're going to have some downward results are going to suffer a little bit, because any changes due to in the ad account, the Google Ads algorithm hates changes. If you didn't know that, that's 100% true. And so you always want to change as little as possible to get what you want done at any given time. Just having someone say that they're working hard on your account and making making a lot of changes, that's the opposite of what you want. You want to have someone knowledgeable to use as little changes as possible. So you go live, you're going to have some volatility because of that, because it's a little bit different. And then they have to revert the site. Now you're going to have negative, you're going to have more volatility and negative sway in your numbers because of that. But once you've already updated your ad account and you've got to go back, and you're not using a Google Ads editor and didn't have a backup file of how the whole account looked like before, going back to the original settings might be difficult. Obviously, you have the change history, you can undo changes, but there's a lot of stuff that can't be undo. You can't undo. If you didn't know that, that's absolutely true. So before you even do anything, you know the site upgrade is going to happen. First thing you do is you create an Adwords Editor or Google Ads Editor file with a backup as it sits. Then you're going to take that file, you're going to make a copy of it, you're going to make all the changes to that Google Ads account as you want it to go. When the new site goes live, you're going to push it live, and then you're going to have this backup copy that has all the settings of the old account as it sits, ready to go in case that the person that did your website screwed up, they weren't competent enough, which happens all the time. Like I said, 20-30% of the time, you got to revert back to the old site. You need to be able to not just know what was the settings on the old account, but you got to be able to do it quickly, because the more time it takes you to revert, the more money you're also losing. So you need to be able to go from the new to the old, like within 5 minutes, basically, because you never know what that new site's going to do. I talked about in the video I made about updating your site and making sure you'll lose as little money as possible in that process, because you always lose a little due to the volatility in the ads. I mentioned you should, when you upgrade your site, you put your site on a staging server. You should test that site in your Google Ads account, so when you aren't risking sending pushing your new site live, realize the site doesn't convert as good as the old one, having to take a hit on your revenue for 2 months and then having to put it back. You should test your site ahead of time. You should know when you go live with your site, specifically because due to how well Google Ads can split test traffic from one keyword that gets a lot of traffic to the page it goes to now that has the old design, and a page that has the new design, and prove that new design is actually going to be the right move before you even have to do a full transition. A lot of people don't want to know, because they don't want to know that their Google or their web design firm they hired was they were BS. They're not good because they don't know how to hire a firm, and because they don't know that hire an extremely good firm that can guarantee you results every time is going to be 5 to 6 figures in terms of a new website, unless you're talking about something super simple like freelancer or something like that. It's a lot of money to do websites anymore, right? Anyway, and so, respectively, you do the backup, and you can go to the original site or to the new site right away. So you always have insurance basically on your Google Ads account, so that when you do the upgrade, in case it doesn't work out, you can instantly go back. And then you can also go back again without having to spend how many hours it took to rebuild up the account again. So you may go forward, then backwards, and have to go forward again. Might as well just back it up and then have your file to go forward. And then as many times as it takes to get the site right, you can go back. You have 2 separate files to go to whatever version of the account as it is to promote the new site or the old site as it exists now as necessary, because sometimes it'll take several times going back and forth. There's a problem, you have to revert. Web design firm says they got it fixed. You go to it, they have to revert again. This happens way more than it should, and you would think. And so, just some other stuff to be aware of. And of course, you can use a backup. You can do a backup if let's say you hire a new firm, a PPC firm, and you don't know if they're going to get results yet. You can do a backup of your account using Google Ads Editor. And then if they screw up the account, you can revert back to the way that it was before, respectively. I just want to throw that in there as well. That's not actually that could be a 6. But anyway, that's everything that I possibly use it for right now, or could think of advising for you to use it for. For the rest of anything else that I haven't mentioned, I just use the native Google Ads, the native Ads Editor, basically the account, not Google Ads Editor, the software program, but just logging into Google Ads itself, the native interface. I use it because it's faster. For smaller changes, it's just faster to go in there, click, click, you're done. When you're talking, the more changes that have to be made, the more in which I'm using Google Ads Editor, the program, because of like all the reasons I said. It actually takes longer to click around when you're talking about having to change a bunch of things. There's a bunch of things you can't directly copy so easily. But if you're talking about small stuff, I just go into the interface itself. And anything I didn't mention here, like I said, it's pretty much just I'm going to go into the account itself. So anyway, hopefully that helps you decide if you're going to use this Google Ads Editor, what it can be used for. I have a ton of other videos on this channel about other PPC money-making strategies. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, you should definitely check them out if you want to make a bunch of money at PPC. I have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build campaigns that are guaranteed to work for our clients. If you'd like to see how I do things a little bit more, you can find lots of information there. Apart from that, if you have any questions about Google Ads Editor, what you should be using it for, why not, anything you think I should cover and didn't, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel within a day or two. Apart from all that, hope you enjoyed the video content here, and I do hope to see you on the next video coming out in another day or two.